I'm Jared Craig, candidate for U.S. House of Representatives to represent Georgia's 14th Congressional District. And on behalf of Veterans for America First, also known as Veterans for Trump, I'm here and proud to speak with Tracy Gold Star Mom LaPorte. And we are here to announce that she's our Hero of the Month for the month of January 2026 for Veterans for America First due to her sacrifices, her son's sacrifice, and for her continued work and effort to draft legislation to prevent what happened to her son from happening to anyone else. So, Tracy, thank you for coming on the show. I want you to tell the audience about what your story is, what your son, Adam Two-Step Huckstep, who's a sergeant in the U.S. Army. Tell the audience about your son and a little bit about what you've been doing.
Definitely. Thank you for having me, for sure. It's very personal. A lot of people do not know what it means when you say Gold Star. So it's surviving. I'm the mother of Sergeant Adam Two-Step Huckstep LaPorte, my oldest son. He joined the Army and he didn't come home. And so when you're serving like that active duty and they knock on your door, you get called the Gold Star mom. So I'm not a special mom. I just lost my kid. So I have to say that because all moms are great. I just don't want anyone to be in my category. It's not a good thing to have the gold star. It means he's not here. So thank you for having me.
Was he a combat veteran as well? He served overseas.
Yes, sir. Adam was in the United States Army, 164 Infantry. He was in OIF and OEF. He was in Iraq, combat, active duty over 18 months, literally. He had been to war. He had a great military career. We had really good people all around us. It was his perfect fit for my child, the kid that couldn't stand to see a bully when he's growing up, the kid that loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, his siblings. The military was a good fit for him. So he did very well, went overseas, and that was a weird experience as a mother. I can tell you that. And then I got him back for just a little bit, and he was headed to Afghanistan, literally. And being a combat active duty soldier who's literally putting your things away to jump on a bus, to get on a plane, to go to another country, you're saying bye to your friends, is what you're doing. And so, unfortunately for me, I got a knock on the door. So it's not the knock I expected. It wasn't the timing I expected. My son, very young, has siblings, family, left home, joined the military. When they knocked on the door and it's the military, I didn't understand it. It's on U.S. soil, number one. That threw me off. And I was, wait a minute, the timing, something's not right here. You're wrong. I didn't want to believe them, literally, as a mother. That's immediately where I went. And I went into just, you can either lay down and cry or you get up and try to figure out what's going on. And I chose to get up and figure out what was going on with my son. And firstborn son, super close. To this day, it gets me. His anniversary is this Sunday as well, February 1st. So I found out after everything you see in the movies when they knock on the door and they bring them home on the plane, all that stuff is real. And I've ran nonprofits and I've helped other people, but being put in that position was one of the worst things that's ever happened in my whole entire life,
They
literally.
knocked on your door. Did they tell you what had happened?
You don't get much information, no, huh? It was, we are sorry, and they have a chaplain, and he's not here any longer. And someone will be approaching you for details. They can't really give you much of anything at that point. I do have to point out now, I want to make sure everybody understands that worst thing in the absolute world, and I did have to go through several different individuals to get help, but there's really good people out there in the military and in the on the ground, boots on the ground, that did step up. So I am very, very grateful for that. We were able to change policies. So with My son, he couldn't stand bullies. So this is a big part of him. He cannot stand to see a bully. I get a call from the school. There's a little kid that was in a wheelchair that always got beat up. My kid decided, no, we don't do this. And he didn't get in trouble for me. I took him home and you're okay, kid. Like, this what was happening shouldn't have been happening. Not that I condone violence, but what I'm saying is what was happening to this poor kid shouldn't. So what this leads me to is he couldn't ignore something that he was watching. And so as he was leaving to go to Afghanistan, another tour overseas, he there's an individual who illegally obtained keys by going to a rental car agency. You can go to these rental agencies, whether it's a car, a van, a truck, wherever you're going to get this. Got handed keys with illegal information. Nothing's verified. The information given could have been scanned, was not. And we found out they would have never been given the keys if someone had checked.
Were his license suspended, or someone had a fake license, or
all of the above.
okay.
So the first individual had a suspended license, is what happened. But this was a 3-person ordeal, is what happened. I got let into something that I had no clue what I was walking into. I didn't know that there wasn't a law. It sounds like common sense that you would ask for my license and you're using it, but you're not. There's never been a law. You need to know who you're handing keys to as a weapon. And I didn't like that. And so I was like, I don't understand. This does not make sense with this timeline. And so I started looking into it. And of course, I had to go to court for a very long time because of the civilians and military also. So military's first. They handle the line of duty. Excellent career, excellent line of duty. Military stood by me. Civilian world, on the other hand, he's killed on U.S. soil is what happened. And so I end up in trials with people who had no business being on the road, being handed keys, or operating anything. That vehicle is used as a weapon. So a group of people were using these vehicles. What was happening in and off of the base, not just this base, but in multiple areas, what we uncovered further down the road, and I don't mean just my son, these cars that are being rented out for things that are horrible. And one is that it got my son killed for speaking up about and fighting back. He fought back against someone who was a bully.
Were they using the vehicles for transporting contraband or human trafficking, or for some organized crime purpose? Is that what you discovered?
I had found all of the above. So the wrong people know that this law does not exist. The right people assume, because someone's looking at our license, that there's a law. But unfortunately, I found out the hard way with that knock on my door. Nothing exists. They have the systems to do this, but I had to lose my son on U.S. soil who could survive overseas in a war. And I found out real quick with other people coming to me and saying, yes, it's trafficking, it's drugs, fentanyl's a big issue. And these cars are used to go literally. I'm not just saying the border, because everybody's always like, be careful what you say. And I'm like, I'm just telling you the truth. I'm telling you that these vehicles are being used to do things that you have no idea. That I unfortunately lost a kid and had to go in there and figure out what was happening. And so you're correct.
Let me make you feel a little bit more comfortable. You do not have to watch your mouth in this. You are here with people that strongly support the First Amendment. You can say whatever you'd like, and the rest of the world can deal with it. So please continue as you see fit.
Okay. Well, so yes, when I was testifying, so, his House Bill 2949, Senate Bill, the last one was 1323 here in Texas. Prior to that, we did have President Trump in office. When President Trump was in office, it's behind me here. If you look to my right, there's a letter back there. I have a letter from him, and this is not about race, religion, politics. This is about human lives, is what it's about. This is about safety. And the very first person that noticed this, I wrote just as a mom, in complete anguish of why the heck do I not have my son? What the heck is going on? Why don't we have this? Why aren't we checking? We've got the flights where it's, no flight if someone's trying to travel. Like, I don't understand this. And the person that responded was actually Trump. And I have a very long, detailed letter who literally dug into it and said, oh my goodness, there's a federal situation here in the transportation system.
Right.
This needs to be looked into. Well, when Trump was out that next term, I went through my state level and I've been trying on a state level. And on the state level, people need to be educated. So trying to literally testify in a room and talk about my son, number one, is very, it's emotional. I mean, it's a hit, but I'm also angry and I'm mad. I'm every emotion because I get looked at and they're like, I just showed my license this morning and I said, yeah, you did what I used to do. I assumed because someone asked me for something that it was being dealt with. There was something being looked at. I had to have people knock on my door and lose my child to understand that not only do I have his siblings, my whole family and everyone I know or are in jeopardy now of more than just someone behind the wheel drinking, more than someone just getting a car that's illegally not supposed to drive, but transporting, trafficking. I learned so much in session when I was testifying that the Border Patrol unions, police officers, they all came up and said, yeah, we're frustrated. We can't do anything. There isn't a law, Tracy. We've got to figure out what to do.
And for the
I'm just
audience, let me
calm.
clarify for the audience, if you're not aware, that when you go to rent a vehicle, just because they ask to look at your ID does not mean that they do a database search. And that person who just checks your ID, if they're in on the deal, they're in on the conspiracy, they can rent you a rental car and get you keys and get you on the road, even if you don't have a valid ID, even if what they had you was a blockbuster card or something absurd, that they can actually still give you that vehicle on a rental contract. And just because they have a bunch of documents that they sign in triplicates, it does not ensure that the agent actually does any due diligence to prevent someone who's not supposed to be driving from obtaining a rental vehicle. I
Correct.
filmed a documentary in Texas, and this is a little sidebar. It just came to mind. I went to rent a series of SUVs for our film crew, a bunch of congressmen and senators that we took down to the border in 2023 in Eagle Pass. And when I went to go rent them, they said, well, do you want vans? Because we could do it at a lower cost because we don't care if they come back or not. And it floored me because I was trying to use a debit card instead of a credit card. Long story. And it floored me because the agent told me that if I rented vans, that they didn't expect it to come back because if they go across the border, they never come back. And I know that's a detour from your story, but I wanted to clarify the loopholes that we're trying to fill here with your legislation. And the legislation that you're trying to pass is the two-step act. And the two step, that's your son's nickname, is that
Two,
right?
yes, it's the number two. You never spell two-step. I'm here in Texas, so the two-step back with the number two. You're correct. I did want to say, what's happening in these cars is by handing those keys over, it's a weapon. You can scan a license. They have the system there. There's just no law to put it into effect. So they can, I'm going to be honest, they can pocket those fees and they keep them. Now, the insurance companies did come to me and they were in support of the two-step act because they still have to pay it.
Right.
So, but the officers, border agents, everyone else, they can't do anything. Their hands are tied. There's no law. And they're just as frustrated. And they're the ones that educated me to say, you have no clue. We've been dealing with this for a very long time. And by the way, miss, you're here and I was in a capital somewhere, and I won't say where I was. Just yesterday, man, we had a rental van parked, and it was a 911 situation. We had to hurry up. He said, I'm very used to this. He worked by the border. He said, you have no idea how many times vehicles are used. The
Mhm.
wrong people know that they can go get these vehicles, and the right people just think when you're handing over your license, or you can get a fake license, or you can get it can look
Right.
You
or
just
whatever
show
you
it.
use,
You
right?
just have to be of age. So the only law that they do keep is, well, you got to give us a credit card and pay. So give us money. And then they want to see the age. So they're facially, it's a visual facial that they're looking at. And so if they were to scan that license, they would owe each area some
Right.
of that money.
And what we're
And
seeing is the
so it's
difference
awful.
between to stop this, where we see the officers, the first responders, that they are reactive, right? They deal with something that happens, but being proactive is what we're trying to do. We're trying to be proactive to force these rental car agencies and the state legislators to control these rental cars or agencies from releasing these vehicles slash weapons that we see using. I mean, just recently we see people using vehicles as weapons against ICE. But we want to be proactive to stop more of this happening. And by closing the gap or tightening this loophole, what we're going to do is solve a lot more problems. Because if not only for public safety, someone that's driving erratic, but the human trafficking, the contraband, the fentanyl, all of those things, if we had this two-step process, we have this bill in place in Texas or across the country eventually, is to be proactive to stop and to add to the law and order and safety benefits that we all believe we have, but I think you realized we don't actually have yet.
We don't have them, and I shouldn't have had to lose my son that way. I would have understood that oath he took, that ultimate sacrifice when he took that oath. I knew what he signed up for. But when they knocked on that door and I found out why he was killed, I, I'm floored. I'm like, this can be avoided. This is ridiculous. I don't understand why we aren't doing something about this. We can, it's very easy. And we owe it to those that have fought, like my child who went in and gave everything. I mean, that's the ultimate sacrifice. We talk about this. I want to see someone do something. His career was great. He loved his siblings. Um, I will admit, yeah, I'm broken. I mean, it changed me majorly. It changed my focus. Life is short. It made me open my eyes and see things that were right in front of me the whole time that I never even thought about were a danger around me. And I went, oh my goodness, I've got to do something. So the Two Step Act was his nickname is Two Step, by the way, and everybody in the military, hey, Two Step. So Sergeant Two Step. You can look this all up and you'll find it under, like you said, Two Step Act. That's the number two. But he's infantry all the way. This kid fought. Uh, he couldn't have survived what happened to him. I mean, what happened to him is a whole story that leads us down a path that's aside from what we're even basically scaling into. It leads us into what the cars are being used for. And my son happened to speak up. And
Well,
because he opened his mouth,
he became a
but to
target.
forget.
Well, Veterans for America First, we want to help you and sponsor this bill as it's being presented. We have local state chapter, Kim Moyes in the state of Texas. We want to sponsor this bill because, as you just explained earlier, that this bill had some momentum on the federal level. And the unfortunate events of the 2020 election that we're finding out was stolen impacted this bill to now where you're having to go to the state level. But we at Veterans for America First, we have this um, plan of attack as well. When we have an administration that's not so America First, and I'll say the Biden regime, or in blue states, we can present this in a local county, but we keep our momentum moving. And you lost momentum with this, and we want to help you pick up the pace with this and get it passed at the state. And if it gets passed at the state of Texas level, maybe bulk it up and bring it to the federal level. As I've announced beforehand and mentioned to you before this, I'm running for U.S. Congress. And I have a couple of other bills that I can add this to that list and present this once elected to present safety not only to the district that I represent, but to the entire United States as a whole. And we see, this is a safety factor. It's also an anti-crime issue. It's also an immigration issue. And the two other bills that I've spoken with you about, him, but to share with the audience, there's one bill that I think solves another loophole. And covers another gap that people are forgetting, that states should not be issuing IDs to non-citizens. Non-citizens, illegal here under any sort of visa or whatnot, your relationship to being on U.S. soil is solely with the U.S. State Department. And we see states that have issued IDs to non-citizens. They register for them to be voters. They send them ballots. They get registered to be in, civic duties, called for jury duty. And we even see some illegal aliens or non-Americans holding jobs in LA as a police officer, that they're enforcing US law against Americans, even though they're not Americans. But we want to prevent all non-citizens from getting IDs at the state level. And we want to have a immigration monitoring system that monitors the visas of all non-citizens straight through the State Department. And lastly, the third, leg of this stool is to prevent commercial driver's license from being issued at the state level. And I propose that they all be issued from the U.S. Department of Transportation, and that commercial driver's license that are intrinsically interstate and they're working in commerce, it is a federal issue only. We have seen the fraud in commercial driver's license. North Carolina admitted 54% of their CDLs were issued fraudulently. California is issuing the single named applicants. And in that application, they don't even have to say what company they work for. And if they do, they don't double check. There's no two-step involved in that either to verify that these drivers are gainfully employed for a licensed industry or a company, two, are valid drivers, and three, they don't have to show who owns that company. So it could just be a complete sham. And the driver's license issue that you raised fits perfectly in with what I've been proposing. And I think that, timing comes together because we're all inspired. People are doing good things for the right reason. I believe we're on the same wavelength and inspired to do this. And I'll tell you, 2 weeks ago, I had no idea about your son's story. I had no idea about the two-step law. And I've been keeping my proposed legislation close to my chest. And when you brought it up and it was presented to me, I thought this is the perfect time, not only to present what I want to propose in my candidacy running for U.S. Congress, but also to help you. And even whatever happens, we still are going to support you and sponsor this bill at the Texas level and hopefully at the federal level. So thank you very much for coming on. Our audience is very America First minded. We were part of the MAGA movement from the very get-go. We were initially Veterans for Trump, and since Trump has been elected now twice, we've changed our name and marketing to Veterans for America First to encapsulate all America First candidates. We promote veterans, first responders, and legislation that promotes the MAGA movement, the America First movement, and that includes what you're doing. And we want to thank you for that. We also want people to reach out to you specifically and help sponsor what you've got going on. And so, Tracy, if people wanted to get in touch with you directly or find out more about your son's story or donate to your cause, how would they get in touch with you?
That's easy. So we now have a foundation in his honor, and it is the Sergeant Two-Step Foundation. So SGT2 STEP Foundation.org. Sergeant Two-Step.org. I say that because people will try to spell two-step. And if you go there, you'll be able to find a way to reach me. You'll find some information. Other than that, you will find the Two-Step Act even on social media pages. I mean, as simple as Facebook. There's petitions. There's a lot of information. If you just put in Two-Step Act, you'll start seeing that, Sergeant Two-Step. And again, you covered actually every bit of that. I actually do want to sit down with President Trump, actually. I never did get to do that. But I do have to say thank you, number one, because I didn't get just a letter that you normally get when your child is killed and they come to your door. We all get this generic letter that had an Obama stamp on it. And I'm not doing politics here. I'm telling people the truth. That, you get a seal, you get a stamp of a name. You don't see that hanging back there. That wasn't a personal letter to me. That wasn't something that valued my son and his life. what I have is a personalized letter that goes it's very detailed, in depth, and it talks about why there is a security risk of this in the transportation department, all the way up federally to every one of us. I don't care if you're red, blue, yellow, male, female. I mean, you got to listen to me when I say it won't matter, because the person that's behind that wheel, the person that's doing what they're doing, they won't care either. You could be walking your dog, you could be walking with your children down the street. There are so many things that this is for everybody. So the reason I bring up Trump is because he was the person that answered me. He was the person that understood me uh, as a mother, trying to get someone to pay attention to what was going on here when I started realizing it. And so I know a lot of people out there, she's Trump. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you my personal voting that I would vote for, because I'm going to tell you, encourage you to go vote. But listen, I did lose my son, which is his blood. And when that's a sacrifice right there for me, my freedom of speech. My freedom of speech is I want my damn son. And we should have had this very simple piece of a law in place to know who's getting these vehicles and where and what is happening. It's so simple to me that it shouldn't have taken a active duty soldier who fought in war and survived in a war to be killed on US soil. I'm never going to lay down on this one. I'm always going to stand up.
Well, the loophole seems to have been stretched open, and what we see as loopholes have huge impacts. But I think you're in the right place. I want to thank you for looking to be proactive, and thank you for sharing your story. But I want to state this, that we're loyal to President Trump, not because of the charisma, not because of his personality, but it's because he is loyal to us. He's loyal to the U.S. Constitution. He was the first president in our lifetime, in the history of the United States, really, who actually does more than he said he's going to do. And when he reaches out and finds a cause, he is sincere with that. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen him do a lot of great things, and he doesn't do it for self-aggrandizement. The majority of what he does, charity-wise, is in secret. It's not to take credit for it, and there's 1,000 stories. But this is one of those things that will be public, that will be out in the air, because I will do what I can to promote this. Veterans for America First will do what we can do to promote this as well. And the only way to make this national is to get it as a bill on the desk in the Oval Office. And I think that that is a noble thing for you to fight for, and we wish to fight alongside with you. And so thank you very much, Tracy. I appreciate you coming on and sharing every bit of your story and your goals and your methods of getting there.